Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of First Peter, the 3rd chapter. Likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wives. See, so he's saying here, as wives, be subject to your husbands, because it could be that you may have an unbelieving husband, right? They don't obey the word, but they also may without the word be won by the conversation or the way of life, the manner of conduct of the wife. Paul says something similar in 1 Corinthians, the 7th chapter. You don't know by your conduct that could bring somebody, which is your husband, that may not believe at first, into the faith, just by seeing how it has changed you. While they behold your chaste conversation coupled with fear. See, by observing your pure and holy way of living, they that could be a driving factor for them to want to learn more about it, and if it be the Spirit, receive it. Whose adorning, let it not be that outward adorning of plaiting the hair, and of wearing of gold, and of putting on of apparel, but let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit. So he's saying here, your these wives here, right, that through your behavior, it could possibly draw your husband in. Let your adorning, or the way that you dress, not be with outward dressing, right, where you styling up that. Now he's not saying here that you can't braid your hair, you can't wear gold, you can't put on, but he's saying let that not be what should be the driving factor, right? Or what, trying to go out there and dress in a way where you're eye-catching people, but rather be adorned with the behavior. Let what catches people's attention about you not be with your outward appearance, but with your manner of conduct, with how holy and not corruptible and meek and quiet of a spirit you have. Let that be what catches people's eye or attention about you, which is in the sight of God a great price. For after this manner, because going back to verse 3, yeah, like back then, this would have been something that, when it catches people's eye, like, oh, she played it up. But Peter's saying what's more important here and more pleasing to the Lord isn't what you look like, but at least not what you look like with meta-realistic things, but what you look like with your deeds. Okay, letting those clothe you. For after this manner in the old time, the holy women also, who trusted in God, adorned themselves, being in subjection unto their own husbands. See, so this is how the women of old, this is how they made themselves beautiful, right? They did so by trusting in the Lord. Okay, as it says, they trusted in God, and they made themselves beautiful by being in subjection unto their own husbands, being humble. Even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, because you come from her, descend from her from Abraham, but that's the foremother. As long as ye do well and are not afraid with any amazement. Okay, let's read that in the NLT. It says, for instance, Sarah obeyed her husband, Abraham, and called him her master. You are her daughters when you do what is right without fear of what your husbands might do. Okay, NIV, it says, like Sarah, who obeyed Abraham and called him her Lord, you are her daughters if you do what is right and do not give way to fear. See, because you're focused on righteousness, and the scriptures talk about that. The righteous are as bold as a lion. So you don't let fear get in the way of you doing that which is right by the standards that have been given to you. Verse 7, likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel. So knowing that, okay, she's the weaker vessel, if certain matters, come up, know how to handle them. I understand that, okay, well, What do you being the head should not be stooping down to her level if it's dealing with something that is immature, right? Something that you really should be handling in a much more mature way. But understand that this is how the Lord created them. They're not the same as us. And as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. So treat treat your treat your wife well, so your prayers won't be hindered if you're out here mistreating them. Meanwhile, you're supposed to be heirs together of the grace of life, right? And understanding that they're the weaker vessel, move accordingly. They may get emotional. They may get more emotional, but you got to understand, because that's how they are. That's how the Lord designed them. You can't expect them to make decisions that really should be up to you to make. Verse 8, finally, be ye all of one mind, having compassion one of another. Being of one mind means you're on one accord, right? Like Yahushua said, that they may be one even as we are one. Having compassion one of another, love as brethren, be pitiful, be courteous. Okay, have that humble attitude, be tenderhearted one to another. Not rendering evil for evil, don't repay evil with evil, or railing for railing. Don't get into those back and forths, be able to take the low route. But contrary-wise, right? But rather to the contrary, blessing, knowing that ye are thereunto called, that ye should inherit a blessing. See, so rather instead, pay them back with a blessing. Okay, because that's what the Most High, in calling us into this newness of life, that's a part of showing the new you, not getting back into it and, oh, this person did this to me, so I'm gonna do the same thing right back to them. Like that's carnal. All right, you're here to inherit a blessing, so live a blessed life, one worthy of that blessing. Verse 10, for he that will love life and see good days, let him refrain his tongue from evil, and his lips that they speak no guile. Right? If you want to enjoy life, you want to live a long life and see many days, control your mouth, control your words. All right, from speaking evil and deceit. Let him eschew evil, turn aside from evil, and do good. Let him seek peace and ensue it. Okay, seek peace and let that be your motive, right? And sue it, go after it. For the eyes of the Lord are over the righteous. Let's actually go and look into this word here. See if they may give us some good synonyms on that. So it's to make a run or to flee, to put to flight, to drive away. A metaphor, to pursue. See? To seek after eagerly, earnestly endeavor to acquire. And that's how you want to seek peace, you want to seek good, and you want to pursue it. Verse 12, for the eyes of the Lord are over the righteous, and his ears are open unto their prayers. But the face of the Lord is against them that do evil. And who is he that will harm you if ye be followers of that which is good? Right, because nobody's going to be able to harm you if you're following that which is good in the eyes of the Lord. He's going to protect you and suffer no one to come against you. And if ye suffer for righteousness' sake, happy are ye, and be not afraid of their terror, neither be troubled. Okay, so if you are suffering for doing what's right, be happy in that. Okay, don't worry about their threats or their whatever it is they try to afflict you with. You're on the right path. But sanctify the Lord God in your hearts, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh you a reason of the hope that is in you, with meekness and fear. Okay, so basically, have the Lord, as it says, sanctify the Lord in your hearts, in your minds, and be ready. So if somebody was to ask you, about your faith or your hope, be able to explain. If you truly believe and you understand what you're a part of, that's not going to be a difficult thing to do, right? You're going to know how to, as it says, answer every man. Some people, you got to answer them differently, but you'd be able to boldly proclaim your faith, but with meekness and fear. Verse 16, having a good conscience, right? that whereas they speak evil of you as of evildoers, they may be ashamed that falsely accuse your good conversation in Hamashiach, because you are you're living a righteous life. You're doing righteous deeds. So people may try to speak evil of you as evildoers, but it really is going to bring shame to them, because they're not going to have anything to accuse you of, right? Because you're living, your manner of conduct is good in Yahweh Shai. So they may try to say you're evil, but okay, what makes me evil? For it is better if the will of God be so that ye suffer for well doing than for evil doing, right? It's better to suffer for doing good than to suffer for doing evil. Because then when somebody speaks evil of you, they're justified because you were doing evil. But Hamashiach, for Yahushai or Hamashiach also had once suffered for sins, the just for the unjust, right? Because he was just, but he suffered for us who were unjust, that he might bring us to God. Because ain't no way we were getting back to the Father without Yahushai. Being put to death in the flesh, but quickened in the spirit. So he was put to death in the flesh, but made alive by the Spirit of the Lord. By which also, because quicken means to make alive, by which also he went and preached unto the spirits in prison, right? And that was us, right? We were likened onto, and us, I mean, time agnostic us, right? That's, we were there back then, we're here today. But he preached unto those that were in prison, liberty to the captives, right? Meaning that those that were imprisoned under the bondage of sin, okay? And the Lord freed us. The scriptures say that know the truth and the truth shall make you free. If the truth is making you free, then that means prior to the truth, you were likened unto a prisoner. Verse 20, which sometime were disobedient, because it's not like they were their actual spirits that are in some secret, super mythical prison somewhere. It's talking about us, which sometime were disobedient, right? So in the past, were disobedient, when once the long suffering of God waited in the days of Noah, right? And this is going back to that time of Noah, where the Lord was being long suffering. He was patiently waiting. That's why it took so long to build the ark. But at the same time, Noah was also warning them, right? While the ark was a preparing, wherein few, that is 8 souls, were saved by water. So the Lord was long suffering with them, but they didn't, at the time, they didn't share in the fear that Noah had. And so it ended up being that only 8 souls were delivered. Noah, his 3 sons, and their wives. Noah's wife and the wives of the three sons. Verse 21, the like figure whereunto even baptism doth also now save us, not the putting away of the filth of the flesh, but the answer of a good conscience toward God, by the resurrection of Yahushua HaMashiach. So let's take a look at this in the NLT. It says, and that water is a picture of baptism, which now saves you, not by removing dirt from your body, but as a response to God from a clean conscience. It is effective because of the resurrection of Yahushua HaMashiach. Okay, so he's saying that water is like symbolic of the baptism, which is made effective through Yahushua HaMashiach, because his baptism isn't about washing physical dirt off of you, but rather cleansing your mind to give you a clean conscience. Who is gone into heaven and is on the right hand of God, angels and authorities and powers being made subject unto him. Okay, so yeah, that's where Yahushua is, right? He's right at the right hand of the Lord, and now he has dominion over angels, authorities, and powers. And that brings us to the end of the book of 1 Peter, the 3rd chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.